The Bostonian is Matt Perrault.
This is our city.
The book is Dave Sharapan.
Pay him. Pay that man his money.
Together, they are the Bostonian versus the book.
You covered 12. I covered!
Follow the show on Twitter at Boston versus the book.
How do you like them apples?
Bringing you the best insight on sports betting news, Matt and Dave's daily picks, and an entertaining and unfiltered dive into the sports betting industry. Here's Dave Sharapan and Matt Perrault.
And here we go.
What's up, everybody? How are you? Welcome into a Monday morning episode of the Bostonian versus the Book. My name is Matt Perrault. We are live on our YouTube channel at Boston versus the Book. The same on Twitter and X, whatever you want to call it, at Boston versus the Book. Replayed on Sports Grid Television and channel 159 on Sirius XM. The show for Monday today. And yes, this is the start of kind of the new schedule for the program in terms of how the show is going to be. We're going to do 60 minutes or so. We may go over, but once we get to 60 minutes, then we'll jump in some bonus time, and we will have this show every day at about this time live. We will be replayed, obviously, at the same time at about 10 p.m. Pacific time on Sports Grid Television and Sirius XM. But for the live show, it's going to be right around 1 p.m. Eastern time every day. Now, there will be certain days that will move just because of scheduling. Like this Thursday, the show will be an hour later. The show will be on actually at 2 p.m. Eastern time. But for the most part, I'm going to try to do the show right in this window just because it fits. It fits for my schedule. It fits what's going to happen coming up for this summer. And so that's what we're going to be wind up doing. Thank you is the word of the day because you guys have been incredible for Dave and the Sharapan family. On Friday, in case you were wondering why I am here alone and why I've been hosting the show solo, is that our dear Consig is battling cancer, and he made that announcement on the show on Friday. You can go back and watch the entire show if you need to, but you guys have raised over $31,000. Over $31,000. And if you would like to continue to support the Sharapans and help them as Dave goes through this fight with cancer, his surgery is scheduled for Monday, July the 7th, and he will fight and beat this thing, but the bills and the finances and the lack of work and the things that are going to happen are there and real. You know, the world doesn't stop when you get sick. Over $31,000 raised. Let's keep it going. The website, thebvbshow.com. That will give you a direct link. You can also go to our X account at Boston versus the Book, and pinned at the top of that is the link to go and continue to raise money for the Sharapans. Huge thank you to Sports Grid this morning. They donated $5,000. Huge. Just an absolute thank you. Huge. We appreciate that so much from our friends at Sports Grid for doing that, for stepping to the plate in that way. I hope we see even more people like that in the community step up to help Dave and to show the Sharapans and show Dave our love and support for what he is battling through. So is the show going to be different? Yes, the show is going to be different. It's going to be me. We're going to keep it as normal as possible, but the show is going to go kind of quicker than normal because normally Dave and I spend some time going back and forth. We're not going to have that back and forth. So Raheem Palmer will join us today from The Ringer. We'll recap everything that happened over the weekend in the NBA. Obviously, a lot to talk about with last night with Oklahoma City and a lot to talk about with Kevin Durant getting traded. So we'll get to that with Raheem Palmer here in about 5 minutes. So stay tuned for that. But we start every program. If you're kind of new, we call this the opening line, which is where's the liner? And hold on. Wow. Where'd the opening liner go? And, there it is. So you put things in places you don't even realize what you did. All right, opening line for us. Superstition in sports is dumb. It's dumb. I'll say it again. It's dumb. Everyone gets so worked up about if a broadcaster says no hitter, perfect game, right? Everyone gets all bent out of shape. You're a friend. You're sitting at a game and you're watching the game and your friend is next to you and your friend goes, oh man, guy's got a no hitter through 6 innings. Oh my gosh, how did you say that? Why did you do that? On this show, David's yelled at me. You can't say these things. You can't do these things. Why not? Why can't we say these things? You do realize that we have absolutely no impact on anything, right? Words mean nothing in a lot of ways. When it comes to the outcome of an action, of a game, of a situation, what someone says has no impact whatsoever. If we did, we all would have superpowers. Like if I could walk around and say like, you're going to lose, you're going to win, I wouldn't have to worry about anything. I would always be winning, right? I would make my team win every game. I would make every wager I ever made to cash. I would never have to worry about this. So last night was the prime example of this, because before the game last night, everyone was losing their minds about the Thunder painting their buses champions of the NBA in 2025. It got to be so ridiculous that Rick Carlisle, the head coach of the Pacers, quote, is furious at the pregame press conference, saying he just saw a video of the Oklahoma City buses painted for the victorious parade. He ignored a question just now and said, "That's all I'm thinking about." That's all you're thinking about. You're not thinking about SGA. You're not thinking about the defense. You're not thinking about your rotation. You're thinking about a bus being painted? Come on, man. There's no way that's true. There's no way that happened. There's no way you were so concerned pregame about that. But if we ever wondered that superstition means nothing, that, the Thunder cursed themselves. How many times do people tweet that? Look out. How many like official accounts for sports betting entities and sports news all tweeted it out? Oh no, the Thunder may have cursed themselves in Game 7. Look, do you know how often that happens, by the way? Do you know how often teams plan the parade route? Like the Eagles did that against the Patriots, and Belichick used that in the pregame. He famously went up and put the parade route right up on the screen and said, "Hey, look at the Eagles are already planning their parade, guys." You know, it takes a long time to plan a parade, right? You got to close down streets. You got to hire the police officers, and you got to make sure the community is going to be, safe when you go and do this. It doesn't just happen. And you don't just paint buses overnight. You have to go do it ahead of time. You don't print t-shirts overnight. You got to print them before. You don't the game's over. We aren't in the back with a printing press, frantically printing OKC championship hats. They made those beforehand. Somewhere in the world, there are championship hats for every losing team in every major sport in America. Somewhere in some community. They send it to Africa and Asia and faraway places. But they do have it. It exists, right? There is an Indiana Pacers 2025 championship hat somewhere in existence. Someone did this, because the reason why it's dumb to be superstitious, the reason why it's ridiculous for us to worry about such a thing, is that nobody could have predicted this. Nobody can predict that Tyrese Halliburton is going to go 3 for 4 from behind the 3-point line, looking like he's going to have an epic Game 7, one that we'll be talking about for generations to come, to only step one wrong way and rupture his Achilles tendon in his right ankle, in his right leg. After the game, that's him greeting his teammates, because the guy is an absolute stand-up stud. But we spent so much energy right before that game worrying about something that had absolutely no impact on the game. Halliburton getting hurt had a massive impact on that game. If he's in that game, I don't know who wins. To be honest, I don't know. The Pacers were rolling. I mean, they looked great. They led at the break. They were up at halftime. So the next time one of your buddies gets mad at you for jinxing something, or, oh man, this guy trailed the bet, so the bet's going to lose, right? How many times in the betting world have we seen that? People have been like, oh, you mushed the bet. There is no mushing, okay? There's no mushing. There's no jinxes. There's no superstition that really factors into the outcome. Mentally, you might think that there's some outcome. And I believe in the power of thought. I believe in manifestation. I believe in belief, in terms of like how you genuinely believe something going into it, impacting your ability to either perform at a certain level or underperform at a certain level. The human brain is an amazing thing. It is our worst enemy in so many ways. It's our worst enemy. It is so hard for us to think positively. It is so easy for us to think negatively. It is so easy for us to get down on ourselves or to rip on ourselves. It's got nothing to do with whether or not somebody said something out loud, or a bus being painted before the game, or a hat being printed before the game. Superstitions are fun, but it's only a mental game. And nobody for the Pacers should have been upset that bus got painted. In fact, I still want to know how the hell they allowed someone to videotape it. Like, how did they allow somebody to get back there to tape it? Because numerous other teams have done very similar things. Parade routes get planned, hats get printed. It means nothing for the game. Doesn't mean you're going to win. It doesn't mean you're going to lose. Joining us now, our good friend, Raheem Palmer from The Ringer here on the Bostonian versus the Book. What is up, my friend? Good to see you again. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, good to see you as well. The NBA season is over. Just a sad way for it to end, but the team who was the best team all year long won it. It's just unfortunate that it happened under those circumstances.
Let's talk about SGA first, and then we'll get to obviously the Pacers, because it's kind of 1A and 1B in terms of the stories here. But what does this mean going forward for SGA? Because this is a 7-in-a-row run the NBA is on. 7 years, 7 different champions. After all of them, we all talked about dynasties, right? We talked about that Boston was going to be a dynasty, and now everyone's talking about SGA. Where does he go in your mind now that he has an MVP, a finals MVP, and he has a championship ring? Where does his career go? Because he's so young.
I mean, it puts him in elite territory. I mean, the last player who, won an MVP and a finals MVP in a championship was Shaq in 2000. So you're looking at 25 years since this has happened. So this puts him in elite territory, and him being only, 27 years old, the core of this team being so young, it puts them in a position to where, they could realistically rip off, 2, 3, 4 of these, and I know we've said the same thing about Denver, and we said the same thing about Boston, but, this Oklahoma City team, they're prepared to navigate this new climate and this new CBA where, there's a repeater tax and there's a, second apron, and they have all of these draft picks. I mean, look, they won the title and they have a lottery pick coming off an injury next year. And, Chet Holmgren, he hasn't played much basketball at all. So he's just scratching the surface. And it felt like, watching these playoffs and these finals, Jalen Williams, he had inconsistent moments, but it felt like he started to find it in the finals. So I think this Oklahoma City Thunder team is a force to be reckoned with, for the future.
Yeah, 2 first-round picks this year, 4 first-round picks next year, as Sam Presti has built this behemoth here to operate with the 25th highest payroll in the NBA, and yet the 4th youngest roster just wound up winning the NBA championship. In terms of a betting perspective, they were the best team all year. They were the betting favorite all year, and they pretty much ran through every ATS number you would want at 65% essentially type of a clip. Was this a good thing for you this year, or are you someone that kind of fades a team like OKC and it wound up being not a great year because the favorite kept on winning?
No, I didn't fade them at all. I mean, I think, my model had Oklahoma City priced, very heavily. I think, they were actually kind of disappointing in these finals to me because, at one point in time, I stopped playing sides. Teams this good, they tend to just, they reach a point where it feels like after hitting a bump in the road, they close the show. And, in the finals, they didn't do that. They were down 2-1 in the finals on the verge of being down 3-1. So, like Indiana was actually the team where you're making more money backing them than Oklahoma City Thunder in terms of just, at least in the postseason.
In terms of the Thunder, against the number. Were you surprised at how much money came in on the Pacers last night? Because it was wild to see that it was one-way action, essentially. Everybody was driving that number down. I saw it as low as 6.5 before tip last night.
Yeah, I was shocked at that because, the game one number was 9.5. It got up to 10 at some points. In game two, obviously it was 11.5. It was a desperation spot. But I mean, for that number to get down to 6.5, the money line was minus 250. And you're talking about a money line for minus 250 for a team that was 10-2 at home in the postseason and had, a plus 247 point differential. So, I mean, they were a complete juggernaut at home. So I was shocked to see that number get down to where it was. But I think ultimately, maybe the public could have been right. We'll never know because Tyrese Halliburton got injured in the first quarter.
Yeah, it's really the one X factor. Do you think Pacer fans, because there's a bunch of them in our chat right now who are complaining about SGA's pushing off and the referees, do Pacer fans have a gripe here in your mind, or is this just, it's a game 7, you got to stop crying about spilled milk?
Yeah, it's a game 7. You got to stop crying about spilled milk. I mean, at the end of the day, SGA, he was 8 for 27. He emptied the clip. I mean, I know he was 11 and 12 from the free throw line, but ultimately what cost the Pacers this game was their offense. They kept turning the ball over. I mean, if you look at like this series was very interesting to me because it almost felt like I was watching an NFL game in the sense that, we talk about in the NFL, the team who wins the turnover battle wins 70% of the games. That was the NBA Finals. You look at game 7, the Pacers had 23 turnovers, 32 points conceded off of turnovers in a game they lost by 13. And the third quarter, it just felt like they were just, throwing the ball all over the court. And then in addition to the turnovers, Oklahoma City was beating them up on the glass. So I don't think this game had anything to do with SGA, pushing off and getting to the line. At the end of the day, they lost their star point guard who doesn't turn the ball over. Tyrese Halliburton doesn't turn the ball over at all. And without him, they continue to turn the ball over. And you go throughout this series, the team, except for game 1, the team who won the turnover battle won the game. So it was like an NFL game to me.
So next year, obviously OKC is the odds-on favorite to win it all. But looking at the Eastern Conference, this is kind of an insane season coming up because Boston is going to be without Tatum. Indiana is going to be without Halliburton. Garland is going to start on the IR for at least a month or so, they think, maybe longer for Cleveland. The Knicks don't know what they're doing. The Knicks don't have a head coach right now, and it's June. Are the Magic worth a look here at like 15-1 to win the East or to win it all next year? Maybe 12-1, 10-1 to win the East next year, given what they're doing?
So I gave this out at 30-1, like before the Bane trade.
Wow.
So, yeah, like I told everyone, because they asked me on East Coast Bias, I'm like, who's the team who's going to make a leap? I said the Orlando Magic. Obviously, Suggs was hurt this year. You're talking about a team who they defend, better than pretty much anybody in this league. And, you saw it in the Boston series. That wasn't an easy series for the Boston Celtics. And there was no Suggs out there. So, in my mind, if you got, Anthony Black to make the leap, and they made a move, which they did, getting Desmond Bane, I thought this team was, could be a contender next year, especially when you consider, when I gave this out, it was just Tatum who's out. But now it's even worse because, Halliburton is out. So I do think the Orlando Magic are contenders, but I wouldn't advise taking it at 13-1. I think right now there's not really much value on, any of those top teams because they've all made moves. I would be looking, if I'm looking for a future right now, and I don't necessarily think it's going to hit, but I'd be looking at the Detroit Pistons at 65-1. Like I would be looking down there. I think you never, when it comes to these future markets, you never want to buy high. Right now, you're buying after a Bane trade and you're buying after the Tyrese Halliburton Achilles injury.
So I know you have some history with Kevin Durant. We've got a guy in the chat who's asking about your back and forth with Kevin Durant on Twitter. For those of you that don't remember you and KD, what happened on X with you and KD?
So me and KD have been going at it for, years at this point in time. And, people will always say, oh, you're a gambler. It's an issue because you lost a bet. No, the biggest thing is that I've always felt that Kevin Durant was overrated. And I feel like they put him in this holy trinity where it's Steph, LeBron, and him. And at the end of the day, he wouldn't have any championships if it weren't for Steph Curry. I mean, you go back and look at that Warriors team, they were like 33-3 without Kevin Durant in the lineup. So there's people who will tell you, oh, he's the best player on that team. You go look at the on-off ratings with Steph and with KD, and they're completely different teams. So, I've always argued with KD about this. Like, at one point in time, this is Memorial Day last year. He actually jumped in my DMs at 9 a.m. on Memorial Day, and we had a 4 or 5 hour conversation about his legacy.
Really?
Yeah. Like, we were talking for about 4 or 5 hours, and he's mentioning everything about how the media hates him. And I'm telling him, I'm like, yo, dude, Bill Simmons loves you. Zach Lowe loves you. Stephen A. Smith, he always says you're the best. And he's like, yo, fuck all of them. That's what he's telling me. He's like, yo, F all of them. And I'm like, yo, you only see the negative. It's like people aren't allowed to be critical. And he's like complaining about how the media was saying that he got his coach fired and he picked Steve Kerr, and he was saying none of that is true. And he was talking about his legacy. And like, we were literally going back and forth for like 5 hours, and it's Memorial Day. And I'm like, yo, at some point in time, I'm like, you don't got nothing better to do?
You're Kevin Durant. Like, you're right. Got nothing better to do to sit here and talk with me. So over the weekend, he's at Fanatics Fest in New York. He's on stage being interviewed by Taylor Rooks, and the trade goes down with him on stage. He's got fans who are yelling at him, hey, KD, you're going to the Rockets. And he's just like, I don't know. Afterwards, he's asked by Kay Adams his thoughts on leaving, and he's like, well, the fans wanted me gone anyway, so they'll be happy that I've been traded. Like, why is that par for the course for him, or he's always playing the victim?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I mean, that's him. I mean, that's just always how he's been. And it's just, I don't know. He's been like a little bit of a wandering spirit since he left Oklahoma City. And it's like, I mean, well, really since he left, Golden State, really. And, it's pretty tragic to me because, a player of his caliber, I mean, he shouldn't be on 5-6 different teams at this point in time. And it does feel like he's playing the victim at the end of the day. So it's very strange.
What do you make of the Rockets with Kevin Durant? They are obviously coached by Ime Udoka, who is a very good coach and has had that team on the ascend, second overall seed in the West this past year. No one really bought it, but I think they'll buy it even more now. But they gave up some pieces, obviously, to go get Kevin Durant, mostly draft choices, 5 second-round picks and a first-round pick. Jalen Green's going to hurt a little bit. Dylan Brooks is an identity piece and a good player. But what do you make of what KD will do in Houston?
All right, so you look at the Rockets. They were 12th in offensive rating last year, 116 points per 100 possessions in their non-garbage time minutes. They were 22nd in half-court rating, 93 points per 100 possessions, 24th in effective field goal percentage, 52%. And they were bottom 10 in effective field goal percentage from every area of the floor. I mean, from the three-point line to the mid-range. Obviously, Kevin Durant should be able to raise that. Now, how much? That's in question, but he's definitely going to improve on that. And we know Kevin Durant is a bucket. I mean, you're talking about a guy who averages almost 27 points per game last year on 52% shooting. The Rockets, their defense will be there. They were 4th in defensive rating last year. Ime Udoka has always been a defensive-minded head coach. He's always led top-tier defenses. So I think I really like this move for the Houston Rockets. And, unlike the Golden State Warriors, when he was there, they don't play that beautiful style of basketball. They don't, pass the ball around and have all those screens and everything like that. So I think Kevin Durant actually is going to fit in here properly because, this is a guy who he's really just happy when you just put the ball in his hands, let him ISO, take those mid-range jumpers, and he doesn't have to play team basketball. And this is exactly what the Rockets need. They need somebody, you give them the ball with 4 minutes to go, take us home. So I think this is a good move for the Houston Rockets. But that said, if you're better, I mean, you're looking at 9-1 right now. Like I said earlier about the Orlando Magic, you don't want to be buying in right now after this move. So, I don't think you can bet this at all.
I'll get you out of here on this. And along those same lines, when you look at the Rockets next year, I mean, where do they fit into your pecking order? Because obviously the Timberwolves are on the ascend, and they believe that they're going to be able to make more noise after what happened this year. Denver's not going anywhere. Luka with a full year with the Lakers, you figure they're going to have something to say. Last hurrah with the Warriors, and defending champs are the Thunder, and they're young. Where do the Rockets fit in the Western Conference?
So, I mean, you got to understand, Kevin Durant is 37 years old. And I think, that is an issue. When you look at the landscape of the Western Conference, you got 4 teams where you have star players like 37 and up. Like you look at the Lakers, I know they got Luka Doncic, but LeBron James is 40 years old. Now, I think out of all of those guys, who do I trust the most out of, the older generation is definitely LeBron. I think he's been able to defy ages more than anyone. But I mean, ultimately, when you have, the best players on your team, 37 and up, and this goes for the Warriors as well. I mean, Steph Curry's 37 years old. Jimmy Butler's getting up there in age. You look at the Los Angeles Clippers, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden. Those are teams I kind of want to cross off the list. And if there's any one of those teams that I would, find myself buying into, it's definitely the Lakers because, of Luka Doncic, and I do think they're going to make a move to get a center. But I think, the Warriors, even the Rockets, I mean, the Rockets, I like what they put together, but can you trust Kevin Durant to stay healthy? And I think that's a problem. So I don't really want futures on any of those teams, the Warriors, the Rockets, the Clippers, or the Lakers.
Raheem, where can the folks get your stuff from the Ringer? Where can they follow you?
They could find me on you can find me on X. I am Rostradamus. You can also find me on the Ringer Gambling feed on Spotify. You can also find me on FanDuel TV. We're on there on Thursdays, and next football season, as always, we do our Sunday NFL Ringer pregame show. So check us out there on FanDuel TV.
Oh, I'll be knocking on your door quite a bit. I know you're ready to go for this football season. It should be a lot of fun. Raheem, thanks for the time, man. Really appreciate your time coming on today.
No doubt. Take the Dolphins under.
Dolphins. Like it. Dolphins under, Panthers over, Patriots over. We'll get to football later on. Good stuff, my man. I appreciate it. Raheem Palmer from the Ringer joining us here in the Bostonian versus the Book. Good to get him on the program about what happened, well, last night. That's where we go with what happened last night. So obviously we have a new NBA champion, and that is the Oklahoma City Thunder, who did what we all thought they were going to do, which is win Game 7 and take care of business. It's why you play all year. You play all year to have Game 7 in your backyard. They win the game going away 103-91. It's their first title since moving from Seattle. And while I think everyone is very quick to say, yes, we're going to see a dynasty. That's all. I mean, we're already getting that talk, right? Dynasty. Hold on. The NBA is in an amazing, amazing moment. The NFL has cornered the market on parity, but the NBA now is getting involved in that. 7 champions in 7 years. And while it looks like the Thunder just will keep on going, different things can happen in sports that derail everything that you thought was going to happen. Injuries, obviously, being the biggest, but there are other things that can happen that can cause you to fall apart. Chemistry issues, rotation issues. So while I like Mark Daigneault a lot, which, by the way, they've been saying his name 2 different ways, because my last name is Perrault, and he's from my neck of the woods. He's a French-Canadian from New England. They were saying Daigneault now, and I'm like, oh, wait. That's how my name is said. So I get the idea. It should be Perrault, as Dave calls me. So D-Nault would be him, Daigneault, or Daigneault. I don't know. So I need that to be clarified. Someone needs to fix that for me as to how do you say the guy's last name. But because he's from New England, so it makes sense that he would have some similarities to my last name and how we say it. But I mean, look, they have the potential. I understand why people are jumping to that conclusion just because of what they could look like and the year they just had. I mean, look at this. I mean, SGA is the first player to win the regular season MVP, the conference finals MVP, and the NBA finals MVP in history. No one's ever done that. No one's ever done what SGA just did. So I think it's okay to, I get the idea. What I don't understand are the conversations about Michael Jordan Larry Bird, like the greats. Like we're putting him way too quickly into that category. Now, I understand the idea that there's only one regular season MVP in the history of the NBA who is not in Springfield. Every other regular season MVP is in Springfield in the Hall of Fame. The only one, and I think one day he'll get there, is Jalen Rose. And I think Jalen Rose one day will get into the Hall of Fame. As of right now, he's not. So, like, I get the idea that people are fast forwarding this guy, but he's so young. Like, can we just let him play? Like, hold on a second. We don't need to compare him to anybody. Like, he's got one championship. He's had an incredible run. Fourth player in the history of the league to have MVP, Finals MVP, and the scoring title in the same year. That's Jordan. Okay, that's the Jordan category. I understand why we're jumping to those conclusions, but my gosh, hold on a second. When it comes to SGA, let the kid play. Fourth youngest roster, 25th highest payroll. They have 2 first-rounders this year and 4 first-rounders next year to build this team. Like, they're going to be able to wheel and deal. They're going to be able to do whatever they want to do. Get bench help, solidify whatever position they think they need to solidify. I think they need a shooter, to be quite honest. They were frustrating, yet like to all hell last night, shooting threes. I know Lou Dort's tremendous, and Lou Dort plays that defensive stopper D and 3 position that's so popular right now in the NBA. I'm not saying you need to replace Lou Dort, but you need help off the bench. You need someone that's going to come off the bench. And I know Alex Caruso did a really good job coming off the bench to help the team in spurts this year, and great defense last night. He played tremendous on the defensive end. But you need more than Alex Caruso. Like, you need a shooter to come off the bench as a pure shooter. So I'm guessing that that's what they're going to be eyeballing in the draft and or trading potentially. But this is a team that is built for the long term because they can now navigate inside the new CBA, and they have so many first-round picks. Congrats to OKC. Hell of a run. The other big NBA news was the Kevin Durant trade that sent him to a Suns team that is a big question. And I think we don't really know what the Suns are going to do next. They're not going to spin off Jalen Green. They made that known. Dylan Brooks, I don't know, but they got a first-round pick and they got 5 second-round picks. I don't really know why you want 5 second-round picks, but that's what they had to do to get the deal for Kevin Durant to go to the Rockets. The Rockets, from an odds perspective, instantly dropped to 8-1 to win it all for a team that was the 2 seed last year. My problem with this for Kevin Durant, my problem is he keeps on bouncing around and he keeps on trying to find where he fits. And you heard Raheem Palmer talk about that in the last segment, about he's kind of a wandering soul. He doesn't know where he belongs. And so now he goes to a younger basketball team. And I know Fred VanVleet's there, but you're going to a younger basketball team. And he's wanted to play with Ime Udoka for a long time. If you remember, that's why Durant to the Celtics became a very big talking point a couple of years ago, because he wants to play for Ime Udoka. So we got it. I mean, the Suns did him a solid. They sent him to the Rockets. They could have sent him to the Timberwolves. He didn't want to play there, but he's got a year left, and you would assume that means Kevin Durant's going to lock himself down, and this is where he'll end his career. He'll end it in Houston. Does it make him a contender? Absolutely. If he stays healthy, it makes them a more formidable opponent because of the defense that they play and how strong they are defensively. But Kevin Durant has a chance to set another record. No team in the history of the NBA has been all NBA on 5 teams. I don't know if that's a record you want. Like, I'm not sure you want that record. Like, that's one of those records where it kind of shows that you're an incredible player, but you can't stay anywhere. Either you're not staying or the team is not keeping you. So when you become this like vagabond and you're moving around constantly, I don't know. I don't know how does that help in a lot of ways? I mean, did that help your legacy? I don't think that helps your legacy. I think it creates a problem for me. But Durant with the Rockets is going to be interesting. I think if they're going to be a fun team to watch next year. They already were a fun team to watch, but I think with Durant there, if he stays healthy, I think they're going to be even better. All right, controversy in Omaha. LSU won their 8th College World Series title yesterday over Coastal Carolina, 2-0. It was the 6th consecutive title for the SEC in college baseball. The problem came in the first inning. Now, full disclosure, I was backing Coastal yesterday, so I was on Coastal. But your first base coach, and your head coach manager getting run in the first inning of a College World Series game in the manner in which that happened can never happen again. I don't understand. Still, I'm confused as to exactly what happened and how this whole thing got touched off. But the first base coach was arguing balls and strikes. He got ejected. The manager for Coastal came out to ask for an explanation as to why they threw the first base coach out. And according to the manager from Coastal, I'm 48. He's 48. He said, I'm a 48-year-old man. No man is going to shoo me back anywhere. And he was being shushed and shooed back by the home plate umpire, and that set him off because all he was asking for was an explanation as to why they threw out the first base coach. Then, as the manager came out to ask for a further explanation after he was ejected, the second base umpire came running in, trying to get in between the home plate umpire and the manager, and the guy fell down in front of 25,000 people. Instantly, the home plate umpire said, you are suspended for 2 games for contacting an umpire. And he did make contact with the umpire, but the guy straight up fell down. Like, he straight up fell down. And yes, how the ump got upset when he tripped over himself. He did. He tripped over himself. And it became a complete ump show. Yeah, absolutely. It was an ump show completely in Omaha. And that really changed the whole trajectory of that game. Again, I don't know. Morrison was the pitcher. He was 12-0, Sun Belt pitcher of the year. He didn't have good stuff. He was throwing 95 in the first inning. He went down from there. He was throwing 91, 92, 93, somewhere in that range. And LSU hitters just teed off on the guy. But it was a 5-3 final. They went up 5-1. The one solo shot was the only run scored by Coastal against LSU pitching up till the 6th or 7th inning. And they added on 2 more runs and lost the game 5-3, but it really was in garbage time. It didn't really matter. That game never really was in doubt. That was a bummer end to the College World Series. That was really unfortunate that happened, and that can't happen again. Like, straight up, that can't happen again. Congrats to LSU. Don't want to take anything away from what the Tigers accomplished. They were the best team almost all year. I mean, the Cade Anderson pitching performance on Friday night was ridiculous. Threw 25 pitches, whatever it was, complete game, dominant, most likely going to be the first pick in the draft. He was awesome. So, he's in the Paul Skeens conversation for dominance. Ben McDonald, Paul Skeens, Cade Anderson. 1, 2, 3 in terms of pitchers in LSU history. Kid was amazing. But that was a bummer ending to the College World Series for sure. So John Jones is retired. How do we know? Well, Dana White in Baku over the weekend, in Azerbaijan, where the fight night was being held, made the announcement before the card started that John Jones is retired. Now, this kind of stopped some people and made everyone go wait, what? John Jones is retired? Yeah, John Jones is retired. He then went to Twitter and issued a long thank you conversation about everything going on, about his life and legacy. And Tom Aspinall is now the heavyweight champion of the UFC. All of this stuff happened. We thought it was stunning and shocking when Dana White made the announcement, but then we found out why John Jones retired. Because John Jones had asked the UFC to give him a ridiculous amount of money to fight Tom Aspinall, who was the interim heavyweight champion of the UFC. John Jones, the greatest, most decorated UFC fighter ever, has had a long history of run-ins with the police. And in Albuquerque, New Mexico, we have a brewing story involving John Jones. This is not good. These are details of the John Jones allegations as to what exactly happened. A woman was found in a traffic crash showing signs of intoxication and lacking clothing from the waist down. The woman told police that Jones was the driver of the vehicle and he fled on foot. This has been a problem with John Jones in the past when it comes to drinking and driving. The girl called who is believed to be John Jones, who appeared to be intoxicated, on the phone, who then made, quote, statements implying his capacity to employ lethal force through a third party. It doesn't say who he was threatening, the girl or the police. In response to this, the police then called for backup. The man on the phone, believed to be John Jones, made, quote, allusions of violence, whatever that means. Police interviewing Jones in person, and he said that the woman, quote, left his house intoxicated and called him after getting into a crash. The woman told police that she did mushrooms and drank alcohol at John Jones's house, and the last thing she remembered was John Jones driving in the car. So, like, clearly there's some real concerns here about John Jones driving intoxicated and crashing, and this woman waking up and going, like, where am I? Now, how did she become half naked? We don't know, but John Jones is denying all of this. The statement from Christopher Dodd, the attorney for John Jones, quote, as John's lawyer, I am stunned by the Albuquerque Police Department's decision to charge him in this new case. In the thousands of cases I have handled in my career, I have never seen a case as strange and unwarranted as this one. John was not driving that night. He wasn't in the car. Who was driving the car then? It appears that an intoxicated woman used a false allegation against John to avoid being arrested for DWI, and the police fell for it. Based on the criminal complaint, it looks like they went so far to seek a warrant for John's cell phone records while conducting a misdemeanor traffic investigation. I've never heard of such a thing. It is truly unbelievable that the police would waste this amount of resources on such a case. The only thing I can think of is that the police were targeting John for improper purposes. We will get to the bottom of it and make sure this baseless case is dismissed. It's not like John Jones hasn't had problems in the past. So, like, that's part of the problem for John Jones, okay? He has a history. And now you see why Dana White looked so, like, pale and so pissed off when he made the announcement that John Jones retired, because the UFC would have done everything for John Jones from a retirement standpoint. This is International Fight Week right now in Vegas. I'm going to all the events. Okay. Like, can't wait to go to the press conferences. Can't wait to go to UFC X, as they call it, their big convention on Friday and Saturday. Like, I'm psyched to go and cover this coming up to Saturday night with UFC 317 here at T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. I'm never here. I'm always gone. This is always the week of the 4th of July, which is next week. And I'm always off that week. So, like, that's just a standing vacation I take every year. So I'm never here in Las Vegas when it's here. So they bumped it up a week, which I love. And so now it's here. So I get to go to all of this stuff. They would have done everything for John Jones. They would have done an incredible ceremony in Hall of Fame, instant induction, all the stuff, if John Jones was retiring for the right reasons. John Jones isn't retiring for the right reasons. John Jones is trying to get away from the spotlight. John Jones has a police case over his head, which makes the company say, we're done. We are trying to get one more fight out of you. That's it. We wanted one more payday, and we were going to pay you a ton of money to go and fight Tom Aspinall, who's had his whole career stagnated by John Jones, because that fight should have happened 6 months ago, but it hasn't happened. And it was one last hurrah for John Jones. And now, see you later. See you later. Gone. John Jones, I'm not sure we see John Jones in sports again, let alone in the UFC. The greatest fighter in UFC history. And now he has that hanging over his head. The details of this case, when you really start digging down deep into it, if he did get on the phone and he threatened police, if you wonder why the police went and got a warrant, that's why. If you're on FaceTime saying, I'm going to hire someone to come kill you, like, Jones, I mean, I don't really put it past John Jones for any of that. So Really a bad situation for the UFC. There will be a lot more of this week. This story's not ending. All the media is here in Vegas. Everyone's here for International Fight Week. Like, this is huge. So many fighters, the whole company, everyone on the roster is in town for this, except for John Jones. It was supposed to be a pretty big day. It was supposed to be a big week. It's supposed to be a big announcement for Aspinall Jones. Dana White promised that fight to happen, guaranteed that fight was going to happen. John Jones will not fight again in the UFC now after all of that, which is absolutely crazy. We unveiled this on Friday. We'll do it again now here on Monday. All right, so obviously we're not going to be doing Better or Book It because there is no Book It. It's kind of dumb for me to do it against myself. So we're going to roll it back. If you guys remember, when I left the Daily Juice for 7 months, when Dave and I went to Props, when this show began, I was doing a daily podcast called Just the Picks. That's the theme song written by a Brigade member, Tim Halliburton, who said, I wanted you to use that. So that's our own theme song for Just the Picks. So this will be a pick segment for us here. And it won't so much be me telling you, I'm giving you the plays. You can do what you want with them. You can either bet them or fade them, whatever you want to do with them. But this will be Just the Picks conversation. Pirates and the Brewers. We are going to jump in on the over. This is a bit of a scary bet. I'm not going to lie, because, and by the way, it just broke officially that Halliburton does have a torn right Achilles. So that is official. That it is. Everybody knew it already, but just in case you wanted the official announcement that yes, Halliburton did officially tear his Achilles last night. The Brewers have been scoring a ton of runs, but they've played the Pirates 4 times so far this year. 8-5, 6-5, 2-1, 6-5. Series is tied 2 games apiece. The Pirates are awful on the road, as we know, 11-27, and they can't score. But they scored 8 runs yesterday against the Rangers, and Chad Patrick goes today for the Brewers. Chad Patrick has an ERA that right now is 3.5, but at home, it's a little bit better at 2.94. But his last 2 starts, 4 earned runs and 5 earned runs, a 5-3 and 6-2 loss. The team has lost 3 consecutive starts for Chad Patrick. On the flip side, the Pirates are throwing an opener in Braxton Ashcroft, who is going to go 1 or 2 innings, maybe. And then the bullpen comes in. And we know what the bullpen is like for the Pirates. It's not good. They're going to give up runs. I was stunned at the 8.5, to be quite honest, just given the Brewers' 23-15 record at home and the fact that, and it was wind aided in a lot of ways, but they scored 8 against the Cubs, then 17, 9, and 9 against the Twins. They've won 4 straight games in 5 of 6. I'm playing the over. Give me the over, 8.5 for the Pirates and the Brewers. Best rivalry in the National League at the moment besides Dodgers-Padres. Cubs-Cardinals, historic today. Cubs-Cardinals is always a lot of fun. It's going to be like 95 degrees at Busch today for this game. The Cubs have been playing softball games because of the wind at Wrigley up against the Mariners. 9-4, 10-7, and 14-6. The problem is they've given up 9, 7, and 14 runs over the last 3 games. Their pitching staff is burned, and they're getting rocked. The Brewers scored 7 and 5 against them in the 2 games that they played. The 1 game got rained out. But this is a Cub team that can score. We know they can score. The Cardinals at home equally can score. And you got 2 pitchers going today with ERAs over 4 and over 5. Over. Cubs, Cardinals, over 9. It's juiced to the under, which I don't really understand. Over. We're going with that. And then finally, Seattle on the money line. I like the Mariners today. And Cal Raleigh is a lot of fun. He's a lot of fun. And the Twins are god-awful. The Twins are horrible. Bailey Ober goes today. Brian Wu goes for Seattle. And while the Mariners on the road are just 19 and 18, the Twins can't beat anybody. They just got swept at home by the Brewers. They lost 3 games in a row. Before that, they won the last game of the road trip against the Reds, 12-5, which snapped a 6-game losing streak. They've lost 9 of 10. Like, this Twins team is falling apart, and they can't pitch and they can't hit. They scored 8 runs yesterday and still lost 9-8. Got blanked 9-0 in the second game and lost 17-6 to the Brewers. Milwaukee had 17 hits yesterday. 17 hits. It's a cheap price. I didn't fully understand it. Give me the Mariners. I like the Mariners on the money line here coming up for that. 95 with 46% humidity. That's not too bad, right? Is that high? Is 40? I don't know, because we have like 13% humidity here in Vegas. Is 46 bad? I forget my thing. Everyone and their mom's on Seattle. Huh. Well, I bet overnight, Mr. Wobble, like you know. So I never know what anyone else is on. I'm never in love with that when, quote, everyone's on it. But I feel like you can't worry too much about what other people are doing. You got to just kind of look at the numbers, look at what you like, look at what you think is a good bet, and then go ahead and make it. So for me, I like Seattle on the money line. BvB prop bet of the day, by the way, last week, 4-1 record. Let's see what we do this week. I'm going to bet on a Yankee, which is a little bit gross, but for the BvB prop bet of the day, Chisholm Jr. Jazz Chisholm Jr. over a half a base at -160. Now, I bet 2 of these yesterday, over 1.5. Both hitters got 1 hit. So that was frustrating. But Jazz Chisholm over just basically 1 hit for him shouldn't be too difficult for the Yankees coming up here today against the Reds. It is Nick Lodolo, who I do like, but yesterday, 4 bases for Jazz, including he hit a home run. He had 2 hits, 2 doubles yesterday. He has hit this in 4 of his last 5 games. And the only time he didn't get this was the 9-0 loss to the Orioles when he had 1 hit. It was 1.5. The books had jacked it up to 1.5. So I'm surprised that it's back down to a half. Just 1 hit gets us there on this. And the Yankees, who were ice cold for the better part of last week, their bats have woken up. And I think this is a little expensive. It's -160, but I'm okay with laying the juice here on this for Jazz to go ahead and go over on this. Yeah, it is kind of crazy on that. Yes, it is a instant fade. Boston guy picking a Yankee, but I like Jazz to get a hit. Single gets us over at -160 here on this for the prop bet of the day today. Ohtani watch. Well, it's history basically like every single time. So for Ohtani watch, he pitched yesterday, which was impressive, but then he turned around and had a home run and a triple. So, like, are you kidding me? Like, this is just consistent for Shohei. It's the second time for Ohtani to have at least a home run and a triple in a game in which he pitched. Like, read that sentence again. This is the second time that Shohei Ohtani has had at least a home run and a triple in a game in which he pitched. He's the only player with multiple games in at least the last 125 seasons. So essentially, nobody alive has ever seen what just happened yesterday for Shohei, who recorded his first strikeout as a Dodger. He got that done in the first inning. He only went 1. So that went pretty much, the Dodgers said that was the plan. I thought he might go 2. I thought they would have him, go 1 inning first time, 2 innings second time. Just went 1. He looked much better. So from a Dodger perspective, he looked much better. So that was exciting. Santana, thank you for that. I appreciate you. My 750 on the Dodgers to win the NL West. But that performance yesterday, like, are you kidding me? Like, what the? That's absolutely insanity for Shohei. He had 5 RBIs, a triple, a home run, a K. He pitched. That's a Little League game. Oh, Ohtani's next appearance will be in Kansas City. I like it. Get him on the road now. See what he can do away from home. He may go more than one inning, JC from KC. He might wind up going 2 innings or more. But that was just, I mean, are you kidding me? Like 125 years. Like 2 times. It's Shohei. Only one doing it in 125 years of Major League Baseball. The guy, that's why we do the Ohtani watch, because it's unfreaking believable. We have stingers, and then we have the the Brigade Proxy Service Pro Football Story of the Day. This comes to us from Fanatics Fest, which Michael Rubin, who owns Fanatics, has said that this is the most stressful thing that they do all year. This is the most difficult thing they do all year. And he oftentimes wonders, is it worth it? Well, there was so much news that came out of Fanatics Fest that I think that it was a net positive for them to do it, but not for Joe Burrow. I can't play the video. It is Darren Rovell's video, but did you guys see Joe Burrow throwing a baseball? Now, I just took a still shot of this. The ball is by his left ear. That's the target straight ahead. Joe Burrow took about 6 throws before he threw a strike from about 10 yards away. This was the prevailing opinion, as Baseball Quotes on Twitter wrote. For someone who gets paid to throw a ball for a living, this is utterly embarrassing from Joe Burrow. But what it highlighted to me was how different the throwing motion is for a football, which has some pretty good weight to it, to a baseball, which has not a lot of weight to it. Because everything he was doing, he was throwing the ball, releasing the ball way too late. He was throwing it basically right down into the ground every time. And he kept doing it. Like, it would have been bad if he did it once. Did it twice, did it 3 times. Like, it was incredible. And there were so many of these reporters and people with cameras and cell phones, and they're all recording Burrow doing this. And luckily for Darren Rovell, he was behind Joe Burrow, which really showed how bad the throws really were. Like, it was awful. Like, it was awful. They are completely different. I'm not debating the point, Sonic, but I mean, this was bad. Like, this was bad. Burrow cannot throw a baseball. To save his life, cannot throw a baseball. So like this was 50 Cent throwing from the mound the first pitch type bad. Like, way off target. Like, just nowhere near. He had no idea where the ball was going. I know everyone's going to say this because I'll say it for you. Yes, Patrick Mahomes would have thrown a strike. Yes, Tom Brady would have thrown a strike. Why? They both were baseball players. I don't know if Joe Burrow ever played baseball. Did he ever play baseball? Maybe he was only a quarterback. Maybe he only threw footballs, and that's it. He's never thrown. I mean, I don't know. When's the last time any of us threw a baseball in front of people? Maybe he was nervous. I don't know, but it was bad. Like, it was really, really embarrassing for Joe Burrow, and it made like international news about the quarterback and one of the best players in the NFL can't throw a baseball 10 feet. Can't throw a strike 10 feet. And yeah, I think they were trying to clock speed. I think they were trying to see how hard he could throw. It looked like that's what it was. It was a pitching gun, and he couldn't even get the thing to go straight on a pitching gun. It was, yeah, not. Oh, he played baseball till 8th grade. Thank you, Mr. Wobble. Till 8th grade. So he hadn't played in a long time. Long time. And it shows you the different skill sets you need to throw a baseball versus throwing a football. 2 very different things. Okay. As I mentioned, I need to figure out the show in terms of how the show is going to roll in terms of time. So this is the 1 hour show. We're going to move on into bonus time. We're going to be on Sports Grid on the replay for 1 hour every day from now until Dave comes back. So it's a 1 hour show live on Sports Grid, or live or recorded on Sports Grid and replayed on Sirius XM. But we will do bonus time. I don't know what bonus time will be like. We'll get to a couple of stories. It may be quick. It may be nothing. But for you guys who are watching on the replay, listening on SiriusXM, thank you for being here. We're back tomorrow, same place, same time. For the rest of you guys who were live, we continue on the other side with bonus time. I mean, it's not like we're going to get loose or even looser. I don't know. So we'll see how that's going to wind up all rolling. But bonus time is bonus time. News of the industry. And these are stories that without Dave don't have the same depth, because obviously having Dave here would be much better to have these conversations. But news of the industry, it came out this morning that again, Arizona has beaten Las Vegas for handle in the month of March. Our friends at ingame.com have put out this slide, as you say, this graph of where gambling is going. And the question is the epicenter of betting out west moving south, meaning Arizona versus Nevada? There is some real data to back this up. If you look at November 23 to March of 24, Nevada had a gigantic lead on Arizona for handle, a $533 million lead over Arizona. From November 24 to March of 25, that has completely flipped. And Arizona now has a $277 million lead on Nevada for handle, including in March, which is a really big betting time here in Nevada. On top of it, with February, with the Super Bowl also there. Now, in February of 24, we had the Super Bowl here in Vegas. So that's why you could say the 711 million, that handle bigger than the 637 million for Arizona. But then the next year, we go right into, look at that, 604 to $699 million from a handle perspective. Now, the holds are different, obviously, for the books and whatnot. This is a population conversation. Like, this is a problem for Nevada that I don't think Nevada is going to have. And it's one of the many conversations that people are having around this market, because everyone's talking about Vegas being, quote, dead. Vegas is not dead. Vegas is just changing. The demographic is changing. And you are seeing companies, bravo to Resorts World. Our friends over at Resorts World are listening and have figured it out. Free parking was their first move, which was brilliant. The second, no more resort fees. This has to go away. The beautiful thing about Vegas is that if one property does it, other properties tend to follow if the public rewards them for doing it. And Resorts World, I think, is brilliant for stepping up and saying, you know what, we're not going to nickel and dime anymore. And we're going to take away the two things that people get the most angry about. Locals cannot stand to pay for parking. Now, you don't have to pay for parking as long as you have a card, and you can get a card, the club card. I forget what they call their card, their club card. But if you have it, it's free parking anyway. So that's a little bit of a misnomer. Like, you could have gotten free parking pretty easily by giving them your email address at Resorts World. But now no one pays for parking, which is tremendous. No one's paying for it. But the resort fees is a real deal. And that add-on has made a lot of people angry. And so I hope more and more companies here in Vegas will follow suit and stop. And if you have choices as to where you're going to stay, reward the companies that are taking out the resorts fees. Because I remember, and I've been in Vegas for 10 years, I remember when we didn't pay those. Okay. I remember the first time they asked me to pay one of those. And I was lucky because I was working at the Palazzo at the time. And so I remember when I was at the front desk and I was staying, I forget why I was staying. I think my sister was coming to visit. And so I was staying at the Palazzo, and they asked me to pay for the resort fee. And I go, I'm not paying the resort fee. And I had to call my contact at the Palazzo and be like, I'm not paying a resort fee. I'm not going to use the gym. I'm not going to use the internet. I've got my studio downstairs. What's going on? And they waived it. There was a time when they would just waive the resort fee. If you complained loud enough, they would just say, forget it. Don't worry about it. Now, now, no way. Everyone's paying it. But we might be seeing some glass breaking on that. We may actually see this stop, and others are talking about it, because it's not just about people coming here feeling nickel and dimes. It's also that Vegas, when it comes to the gambling side of things, from the sports betting side of things, it used to be unique. Coming to Vegas to go to a sports book is still really cool, but Arizona's got some really good sports books. Like Arizona's got some really cool properties. And while they're closing books at, Footprint Arena where the Suns play, they're closing those books. They're in arenas. Those are being closed. They're opening up gigantic books all over the state. Really gorgeous, gorgeous sports books are being opened up, and people that would drive to Vegas for a weekend don't need to do it anymore. They can do it in their home state. And there are so many more people in Phoenix, in Flagstaff, and in Tucson, and all the other, cities around Arizona. Just a much bigger state than Las Vegas and Nevada. We have one city. Reno's tiny. You guys ever been up there? But Reno is tiny. It's a very small city. So you have a small city in Reno, 6 hours to the north, and you have a big city, but it really isn't that big of a city. I mean, it's a top 40 market, but it's not like Phoenix is a top 10 market. Totally different population size. So this is not going to change in my mind. The handle for Arizona is not going to go down. We're not going to see, I don't believe we're not going to see Arizona, have less of a handle going forward. Nevada's could go back up if more people come here and more people come to be a part of whatever events they're coming to be a part of in Las Vegas. And we'll always do events better than anybody else here. We'll always do huge, parties and Super Bowls and March Madness and all the cool stuff that we do here, conference tournaments and whatnot, because we have the hotel rooms that nobody else has in a very close proximity to all the venues, to all the arenas. So we do events better than anybody else, but events aren't consistent. They don't happen every day. They don't happen every month. So that's part of the problem that we're running into here in Las Vegas. So I don't think that's changing anytime soon. I really don't. I really don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Resort fees and parking costs will return once football starts, according to JR. Do you know how much money it costs to park at MGM casinos during the? Yeah, I do. Of course I do. I go there all the time. I'm going to go down there Saturday, JR, and I'm going to park across the street from T-Mobile Arena, and I'm going to go to UFC 317. I get all of that. I know how much it costs, but I will be curious. You could see MGM have free parking if you have a room key. Like, there's ways of charging the public for parking for going to a game and having it be free if you're staying at an MGM property. There's all sorts of ways that you could do this where you don't have somebody pay for parking who is staying at your property. So, like, they're smart people. Like, people who do this is smart. They're not dumb. So I do think there's a lot of people who are going to be looking at this and saying, hey, how do we get people to come back to Vegas? And the way you do that is by lowering prices and by taking away the things that people are the most angry about. Over the weekend, I don't have the slide, but I saw it online. Over the weekend, there was somebody who paid $27 for a bottle of water at a mini bar. I think it was at the Palazzo, where it was a bottle of Fiji. They charged them $27 for it, and it went viral. Like, that stuff, like those types of things have to stop for Vegas. Like, you cannot have that be out there where someone is paying that type of dollar amount for something so simple. Like, it's bad enough when somebody charges you $6, $7 for a bottle of water, right? That's egregious. You can get a case of water for $4, but $27 for a bottle of water? Like, that's insane. Like, that is like, whoa. That doesn't make any sense. So, yeah. Okay, bro. Boston parking, I'll give it to you. But Boston does not, the city of Boston does not revolve around the tourist dollar. The city of Boston have got people who live downtown. Like, okay, I pay it all the time. When Amanda and I go to the South End and we go have dinner in the South End at some of these trendy new restaurants down there, we're paying $45, $50 parking easy. Underground, above ground, doesn't matter. Valet, not valet, doesn't matter. It's $50. So yes, that's typical for a major metropolitan area. Vegas, we have huge parking garages all over the strip that need to be filled up with people coming to stay here to be a part of it. And so if you aren't going to come here for a variety of reasons, that's a big problem. And people have not been coming here for a variety of reasons. Now, the Canadian thing with Trump and all that, fine. That's true. That's part of it. But it's not the only reason why. It's not just the international travel. It's not just people from Mexico not wanting to come here. It's not just the people from Canada not wanting to come here. It's more than that. There's 15 to 25 reasons why people aren't coming to Vegas as much anymore, but the numbers are bearing it out. And the Arizona handle for sports betting, again, beating Nevada for March, a month where we had games here. We had tournaments here, multiple tournaments here. And yet the handle in Arizona, again, bigger than Nevada. I don't think that changed anytime soon. I don't think that's going to be anything all that different here when it comes to, yes, I think it's going to be the new norm. I do. I think it's going to be the new norm on this. Favorite thing about today on the way out. Favorite thing about today for me is the same thing that we started the show with, to be quite honest. Amazing job by everybody in the brigade. 31,000 plus raised for Dave. I see Dave in the chat. That's phenomenal. Thanks for hanging out and being part of it. TheBvBshow.com. Go and donate $5. Whatever you can help us raise money for Dave, that would be tremendous. Again, big shout out to Sports Grid for the big donation this morning. I hope somebody matches that at $5,000. Let's go and match it. When Dave and I were talking, I said to Dave that I thought the community would come together in a big way, and he wasn't sure. I mean, obviously, when you're in that position, you're like, I don't know, are people going to care? And yes, people care, and yes, people want to help, and yes, they have so far. That was at 8:30 this morning, by the way. So I haven't checked the numbers, but if you go to our website, thebvbshow.com, the link is right there, or you can go to my Twitter account or the show's Twitter account at Boston versus the book. It's pinned at the top of the show's Twitter account, and you guys can go ahead and click on the link and go and help raise money for Dave as we go through this. So like I mentioned before, we are rolling here on the show today, tomorrow, and on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Thursday's show will be a little bit later because I have a meeting. So it'll be 1 hour behind that. It'll be at 2 o'clock Eastern on Thursday, and then back on Friday. The show is off next week for our typical 4th of July vacation week. And then back on July the 7th, I will be live in New Hampshire for the month of July. You will get this different backdrop and whatnot, but I'll be in New Hampshire. Show will still be on at 1 p.m. Eastern time, starting on July the 7th, but just like same thing for tomorrow. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Go donate to Dave's cause. You will not be sorry for doing it. Thank you for the support. Everyone who has donated, thank you so much. Anyone's going to donate in the future as well. And stay tuned. We got some other cool fundraising things starting. I'm still trying to figure out a couple of ways of how to do this, but we do have some other things, hopefully, to make an announcement later on this week as well. Thank you for being here. Go follow the show at Boston versus the Book on Twitter, X, or on YouTube. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the show as well. Back tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern for BvB.